Didn't your mom not teach you not to sneak up on people? Oh my gosh. Good morning, my gorgeous friends on the internet. Today I thought we are gonna have some fun. So I put together a list of like top most popular UI frameworks for React, and we're gonna rate them from perfection all the way to trash. Get out of here. It's just another framework in web development, which is the case most of the time. But anyway, let's get into the list. Oh, I want to say also that the Black Friday deal is still running. So all the courses on developbyed.com are still 40% off if you use the coupon code BF40. So check that out and let's get into the list. Okay, so first of all, I want to start off with kind of the default built-in tools that you get in React. One of them is Inline CSS, and as you can see, it doesn't have a logo because it's just something that the React team did. So I just took a screenshot of my VS Code. Okay, so how does it work? Well, essentially what you do is you go to an element. In this case, I just have a home page here, and you just add a style property here like that, and then you pass in an object. So if you want to do a background color, you type in background color red, and that should just work fine. And there we go. What is nice about this and what is not? Well, one thing I don't like about it is that you have to write it in like JavaScripty way, right? So you have to do camel casing here and uppercase the C. And I don't like camel case. This ain't Egypt, bitch. Another thing that's quite funny about it is that it's quite long because you have to write out background color red, blah, 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 and then you add your comma and whatnot. So if you have multiple ones here, it's gonna look quite crazy if you have multiple properties. So I'm not big of a fan of that either. Now, one thing you can do is actually separate it up here, because essentially this is just an object. So I can just do a const object style here and just paste it in here like that. And that should work the same way. So if I do that, and I can paste it in like that, and we're still gonna get a background red on that div. So that's really cool. You can also separate it to another file if you want. So you can do export const object style and then just import it here, and it's gonna work the same way. For me, I just think it takes too much effort. I think it's like just an okay built-in solution, but nothing special about it. So for that reason, I'm gonna put it on the okay list. The React team did an okay job on the inline styles. Now, another one is called React CSS Modules. Now, one thing about this that's superior to this, like let's say I want to add the styling to the H1 here. There's no way for me to just do a H1 here and add the styling, right? Which means that I need to make an object like this for every single element that I want to style, which makes it really difficult, right? Now you could do normal CSS styling, but the problem with that is that it's going to apply globally. So if I do a H1 selection here like that, and I add a color of red, that's going to apply to everything in my code, all the H1s in my code. Whereas CSS modules literally does that. It only applies to one single component. So in this case, we have a home.module CSS. So if I add a H1 here and add a styling to it like color red, this is only going to apply to my home page here if I import the styles. Okay, so it's not working because the way you need to format the code is in here, the home modules. You cannot just do a H1 like that. Actually, you need to add a class associated to that. So we can do, I can do color, let's say home page, right? And I can add a bit of styling to this, background light blue. And then if I do home H1, then I can do color red. All right. And then in the page.jsx, what we need to do, I'll import this as styles actually. And on the div that you want to add the styles, you do styles dot and then the name of the class. So home like that. And that should work now. Anyway, my problem with this is that there's just so many extra steps from creating your files, importing it properly, adding the styling. It just takes forever. And I've never been a big fan of this because now we have another folder with loads of styles that's completely separate. So if I want to change something, let's say I want to go to the contact page, right? It'd be nice to just go to the contact page in the JSX, to that component, and then adjust the styling or adjust whatever functionality I need to it. But with modules, you'd have to actually go into the styles folder, look for it, right? Find the file and then look for the thing you want to update it. And I don't know, it just feels very slow. It feels like there's lots of setup to do with it. And I'm not a big fan of importing it like this and then adding the style like that. I don't know, just never been a fan of it. It's still a built-in solution, but I'm gonna put it to come on, because it's just not fun to do. Next up on the list, we have styled components, which was one of the most popular React UI frameworks out there probably for a very long time. So what are the advantages of this? Well, first of all, you get to write normal CSS in a way. So what you do is you create a object like that, kind of like inline styles, but the difference is you get to use their special property here called styled, and then you add like whatever you want to style, like an A tag or a H1, and then you do backticks and you get to write just normal CSS, which is really nice. And then at the end, all you do is you essentially replace let's see, so I have a H1 here, right? Like that. So what you do is I'll create the H1 style and set that equal to style.h1. And then here I can just add my normal styling like that. All right. And there's an extension as well for this, which is really good because it's going to recognize it like normal CSS. So you can add all your styling here, and then what you do is you replace the H1 here with the H1 style. So it's a really good solution. You can modularize it again, you can export it and import it in this file, so you can do an export const H1 style. The thing I like about it most is that it's very easy to read because it's normal CSS looking like. You can do stuff with props, add state to change the styling based on that. And there's just loads of things that you can do with it, which is really nice. You can extend styles, so you can create your own system very easily. It's really, really good. One thing I didn't like about it for a long time is that I have to replace my H1s here with H1 style, okay? Aesthetically, I don't think that looks that great, to be honest, especially when you have loads of components. You cannot tell which one's actually a real component or just the styling. It becomes a bit tricky. So you have to be very careful with how you name these because it can get really confusing very quick. But other than that, I think it's a great library to use. So for that reason, I'm going to put it quite high and say amazing. I'm not going to put it to perfection just because it's still a bit wonky again with naming conventions, and some things break sometimes. Like for example, now with Next.js, the version 13, it's not even working. So you cannot even use it on it because they changed the whole system up again. So it's not gonna work. So it's like stuff like that that's a bit annoying. So it's amazing, but that's it. Next up on the list, we have something called Grommet. And I haven't never heard about it, but it was rated one of the top first ones on the list. And to be honest, like I'm not really a huge fan of how it looks like, even like their documentation here, right? It just looks a bit like one of the first websites I built learning CSS. And like if you look at the stylings here, I mean, they're not that pretty, to be honest. So the way this works essentially is you create these, they give you these components that you can put together, right? So you have a card component, and then you can add certain properties to it, like small, and you can add a background to it. I just honestly don't think it looks that good, and I think there's other better solutions out there. So this just felt a bit to me like they were trying to get in on making another framework just for the sake of it, to be honest, because I haven't really found anything on it that's really separates it from all the other ones. So just for that reason, I don't like the way it looks. I don't think the styling is that pretty. So for that reason, it's just another framework, to be honest. Nothing special about it. Next up on the list, we have React Bootstrap. Essentially, if you like Bootstrap and vanilla CSS, then you're gonna love it here. So it's pretty much the same way. It works in like a component system. So you install it, and then essentially you just import a button from their system, which is already styled for you. So if we go here to, let's say, components, for example, and there you go. So if you want an alert button here, or alert div, sorry, I should say, you import it from React, and then you have a bit of variety that you can do to customize it, but nothing crazy. You get certain colors, you get certain properties that you can change, and that's about it. So this is used essentially for really quick prototyping, which is great. I love that. Sometimes you just want to throw together something really quick. The thing for me though is that Bootstrap just feels so outdated. Like, remember 5 to 10 years ago how easy it was for you to recognize a Bootstrap site? There's just certain things about like the colors and the buttons that they look like. It just looks outdated to me. So I just found it a bit funny that we are kind of bringing that in here, right? That's kind of essentially like bringing jQuery into 2023, which I don't think is really good. If you liked it, if you know it, then you could probably just instantly pick it up and use it. But the next UI framework I'm going to talk about, I think it's just a bit better than this one. So for that reason, I'm going to take this one and put it, where is it? I'm going to put it on, come on, nothing special, nothing great. So it's going to go there. But the next one I'm going to talk about is Material UI, which I think is pretty much a new version of Bootstrap, or a modern version that was made for React. And I know it's not, I know it's a bit newer, so of course it's going to be a bit more nice, but here we go. So essentially it still works as a component system. So you import something and you apply it, but it just looks much prettier. It doesn't have that bootstrappy look to it, which I really like. And it's quite vast, the amount of things that they have in here, especially they give you like templates that you can purchase as well, which is really cool. So you can just import them if you want some really quick prototyping. They have icons, they have components, pretty much everything. And I think the code as well looks a bit cleaner the way they have it here. But the documentation is amazing as well. So it's really easy to go in here and just find something and get up and running. And as you can see, they have animations as well. And they have JavaScripty stuff, right? Like accordions and cards that open up. So yeah, really good. I really like Material UI. It's one of those frameworks that feels like loads of effort went into it. So for that reason only, I think if you're looking for like a Bootstrap type fast prototyping framework, Material UI is quite amazing. So I'm gonna put it up to perfection. I think they nailed it. Next up, we have Tailwind, and you know I'm a big fan of Tailwind, but am I? Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect, unfortunately. But essentially how Tailwind does it is you get these small utility classes that you can apply to your code. So as you can see here, you basically just go to the element that you want to style, in this case like the p tag, and you just add a utility class to it. So if I want a bigger font size, you can add text large, you can add a font medium, etc., etc. The thing I like most about Tailwind is just how fast it is. So even setting it up, it takes like a second, because it's so integrated and so used with Next and just React in general, that the docs and the way that the setup works is so intuitive that I really love about it. But anyway, let's say if I just have a H1 here, I can add so much styling to it in such a quick manner. So let's say I have a hello here, right? So let's say I want to add some padding to it, make the text larger, change the color to it. So I can just do and add a display flex maybe to it. So I can just do padding, I can do class name, padding 5, like that. All right, so that adds 5 all around padding. And then I can do text large if I want the text large. I can just add flex and text center. So that's gonna do all the flex things I wanna do. Sorry, it's item center. And then I can do justify between, right? So really quick, whereas in normal CSS that would look like this: h1, this, and then you do display, flex, and then you do justify content, and then you do center, and then you do align item center, right? It takes so long, whereas this is so quick, especially because one of the properties they use the most is padding and margin. So you just do M2, P3, it's really quick. And that's why I absolutely love Tailwind. One problem I'd say about it is once you start having like a couple of elements in here, especially if they're the same, and then you need to update one, it's a bit annoying. You'd have to do like, let's say, modify the padding on here, right? I do 2, then you'd need to go and update all of these, because yes, you could separate it and add it to like a CSS file and then import it in here, but that kind of defeats the purpose of Tailwind. So essentially, you'd need to learn like shortcuts to basically select multiple elements like this at the same time, so you can do updates like that. But overall, it's great. It's really quick, and you have the flexibility to style your elements in any way you want. That's what I love about it. You're not gonna get a bootstrappy look. You're not gonna get a material UI look. You get to make your own system. And also the way they have it, so it's prioritized where it's mobile first. So basically all the styling that I'm adding here is going to apply to mobile, but if I want the padding to look different on the larger screen, I can just do on large screens like that, I want padding 4 like that, and that's it. I think it's the other way around maybe, but essentially that's it. And then you have a fully responsive system going on in very quick way. You can also extend the styles in its own file. I can go on forever about this, but it's great. And they also have pre-built components, which I really like. It looks really clean, really good, and they just seem to be working really hard on it to make it like this one-stop shop of adding your styled components. And I love it because everything is in one file, so you don't need to worry. You don't need a styles folder. It's just very clean and very intuitive. And one other benefit of it is that you can use it with any framework out there. So if you like Svelte, you like Vue, Tailwind is still the way. So for that reason, I think it's great. So I'm gonna put it up to perfection. Very solid choice. Chakra is our last one, which is essentially kind of like a material, which is like a Tailwind, I should say, more than a material UI. So let's take a look at Chakra UI. It's written a bit differently. Let's take a look at the code here. Essentially, the way this works is every single property is separated like that. So you don't do a class name like you do in Tailwind. You do M like that for margin and set that equal to 23 or whatever. And then you have your height and you set that equal to whatever, right? So that's essentially the way they're doing it. And I think honestly, it does look a bit easier to read, I'd say, but it's so much more effort to write it out like this, where this is really quick. You can just do a class name P2, M2, boom, boom, boom. Whereas this, you have to do M equals 2, and then you do the strings and 23, blah, blah, blah. So I just don't like the format of it too much. So that's why I'm not a big fan of it. But essentially, they tried to do a lot of things like Tailwind tried to do. I don't know. Not a huge fan about it. What I do like about it is that they have these built-in components that are really cool, which have like JavaScript animations to it. And that's really easy and nice to write out. So I'll give them that. For that reason, see, like if we have alerts as well. Let's see what else. They have toasts included as well. Look at that, boof, boof. So that's really clean. So for that reason, I'm gonna rate it quite high. But I guess this is also kind of preference, which system you like more, the way it's being written more. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I still think it's quite good. So that's exactly where I'm gonna place it, and good. So that's it, that's the list there. From perfection to just another framework. I'm still gonna keep using Tailwind from now on. I think it's a great solution. I'm not touching loads of them now because they don't work, especially because I'm working mainly in Next.js. So all of these CSS and JS libraries broke with the new version of Next.js. So Tailwind is the one I'm gonna keep working in, and to be honest, I might actually look more towards Chakra than Material UI, because I do like a couple of things about it. I'll move it up here. I'll move Style Components down. Big change, because I feel like Style Components is going out of popularity, to be honest, and I would never really go back to use it. You going down here, son. Okay, that's gonna be my list. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know if you wanted me to make another one of these with JavaScript frameworks. That'd be fun. All right, until next time, take care. Drop a subscribe down below. Let me know. Give me your list. I want to see your list, how you rated all of these, because I wonder if I'm just weird. All right, until next time, Merry fucking Christmas.